Here's a fun fact. I've always been in pretty good shape, and I know that makes a lot of people roll their eyes and probably want to punch me in the face, but it's true, and it's just kind of the way that I'm built. Maybe I can thank my parents, but I've always had kind of a naturally athletic frame and small hips and issues with my pants fitting around my hips, but then being tight around my thighs. And I've probably had the same frame since I was about 10 years old, but I've also probably had the same chest size since then too. So I guess it all kind of balances out. Into the outside world, I probably look like I've never had a weight issue or any problems to deal with, but I can't say that I have a huge transformation story in pounds, but I do have a transformation story in my mental confidence in myself and the way that I perceive myself. I've always been a very active person. I grew up dancing. I played softball. I even played hockey, which nobody would ever believe. And I've just always loved being an active person. I wouldn't necessarily say I love the outdoors because I'm afraid of most animals, but other than that, I really do like to be active. I've pretty much always been into fitness too, but I really kind of got into it a little bit in college. And it kind of took off more in the last, maybe 6 years when I became a Zumba instructor. But in the past, I've always wanted to be that person that was like the perfectly thin person. And, I always wanted to look my best in costumes, or, I was always afraid that people would be judging how I looked. And I feel like a lot of times girls are the most critical of other girls. It's not even really what guys think about, it's what girls think of each other. And I just always was worried about what other people were thinking. And I feel like I would go to the extreme because I wanted to, what in my head looked good, I wanted to be perfect without actually feeling like I ever got there. So I would strive for it, but I would never actually feel like I was there. So I feel like I would go from extremes of either not eating anything to eating too much and then feeling really guilty about it. And then, trying to work it all off and then kind of repeating this whole cycle of just being unhealthy and not treating my body the right way. Even though from the outside, I looked like a perfectly healthy and perfectly fit person. So you really just can never tell what's going on with someone else just by looking at them. A lot of time people think that you only have a struggle if you have, 10, 15, 20, or 100 pounds to lose. And it's not always the case. Sometimes people of any size are going to have an issue with the way that they look. And it's all about finding that self-confidence and what's going to make you feel good about yourself. And when I became a Zumba instructor, part of me was that I wanted to continue dancing, and this was like a great way for me to stay active and really get into my exercise, but also be able to dance. I treat that Zumba room like it's my stage, and I want people to feel the same joy from dancing that I feel. I want them to feel that when they come to my class. And so on the outside, I have all the right ideas, but then in the back of my mind, I'm like, the more that I teach, the more that I'm going to work out, and then I'm going to be in better shape because I'm working out all the time. But I never took into consideration my nutrition and what I either was putting in my body or not putting in my body. I've realized that you can't not put food in your body and expect it to perform and expect it to be better just because you're not giving it anything, if that makes any sense. And I also learned that I can't just eat chicken fingers and french fries because I worked out and now my body deserved that treat. I still am somebody that is all about balance. I am not going to sit here and preach to you that you should never have a piece of pizza again, or you should never have cake or ice cream, because if anybody ever told me that I couldn't have those things again, I'd probably just say, well, just, cut me off now, because I can't do it. I've tried to give up cheese and I couldn't even do that. So I'm all about having that balance and knowing that what you should put on your body and what you probably shouldn't, but can get away with once in a while as long as you're staying on track. And so, being a Zumba instructor, I felt like I was teaching all the time and I could kind of eat whatever I wanted, and that really wasn't the case. So I've throughout my life have gone through these periods of trying every fad diet, even though to other people looking at me, it didn't need to try those things. But in my mind, I was never at the perfect weight that I wanted to be. So, I tried all those diet pills. I've tried all the fad diets. I've tried not eating. I've tried a million different things to get to like where I thought I would be mentally perfect in my head and how I would appear perfect to other people. And I've just realized now within the last 2 years, between my body having some huge transformations with having two babies and now being a coach, I've realized how much it's really important to have, that self-confidence and realize like what you are is enough. And just wanting to be healthy in general is really like the most important thing. It doesn't matter about the number on the scale. It doesn't matter about really anything else. It matters about how you feel about yourself. And I'll tell you, when I first found out that I was pregnant with Callan, my biggest fear wasn't, oh my God, I'm going to be a mom. Like, how am I going to do this? I felt like, even though I said I never wanted kids, I kind of knew like, okay, I'm going to be a great mom. But my biggest fear was, oh my God, I'm going to get fat. And you can probably ask anybody that like they know that this was my fear. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get fat. I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like, what's my body going to look like after? And how am I going to recover from this? And, so I made sure that I taught all through my first pregnancy, a little bit because I wanted to stay busy, a little bit because I wanted to stay in shape, and I was afraid of how much weight I would actually gain if I stopped everything altogether. But for me, working out is also like a release. So it's a stress reliever. It's something that I just enjoy doing in general. So I taught up until Callan came 5 weeks early. And even with my second pregnancy, I taught until my water broke and literally in class. And the difference in those two times is that when I taught, when I was pregnant with Callan, I was more thinking like, I don't know how much weight I'm going to gain. I need something to help control that. Where if you fast forward to when I was pregnant with Colton, it was more like, this is just what I love to do. And I feel better when I do it and I feel healthy. And I know that I'm going to feel healthier after I have the baby if I keep teaching. I hope that makes sense to people. And so within the last year and a half, I became a fitness coach, and many of you probably have heard that. And for me, it's been a great way to tie in being in the fitness industry and being able to help other people, but also help myself. I mean, I feel like I've helped a lot of people reach their goals or at least learn new habits to live a healthier life. But aside from like how important that is, it's so important that I feel like I'm helping myself. I feel like I'm pushing myself to be a more positive person. I'm pushing myself to be a better role model for my kids and for my nieces and nephews and for my family. I want my family to be healthy and be around just as long as I am. And so even though they don't always take my advice, at least I'm putting it out there. And at some point, maybe something will stick. And maybe someone in my family will have a drink of water instead of a soda, like at some point. That would probably be the biggest win for me. But I've learned so much more about who I am and what's important to me. And it's not more about what my body type looks like or what I look like to everybody else. It's the fact that I feel more confident and I feel more comfortable in my skin than I ever have. And that to me is so crazy because I never thought that I would be comfortable with a body after 2 kids. And that's not to say I haven't put in a lot of hard work. I've watched what I eat and I eat well 85% of the time. And I exercise regularly, but I don't do it because I feel like I have to for my body to look a certain way. I do it just because I love it and because I like the way that I feel when I work out. I'm happier, I'm less stressed. And for me, being less stressed is better for the kids because then I'm not like flipping out all the time. Even though I have my meltdowns where I think I need to lock myself in a closet. And I still have the days where I'm like, oh my God, I'm having a fat day. Why doesn't anything fit me right? Or why don't my abs look flatter? And then I have to dial it back and realize like the things that my body has been through in the last 2 years is nothing to blink at. And how far I've come, and not even just with 2 pregnancies, but how far I've come in just thinking what was healthy before and what I know is healthy now is huge. So the point of this really is that you just never know what's going on with someone else, and you can't discredit one person's journey to another's, and you can't compare my journey to yours, because I might be in the middle of my journey where you might just be starting out, and everybody's always at a different place and everybody's always coming from a different place. But it's important that we all kind of pull together and empower each other to do more and to be better and to be healthier, because really at the end of the day, it's your health that's going to make any sort of difference. And now realizing that like my health is so important to me because I want to be healthy for my sons is, so life-changing. And I feel like every day I'm just happy that I have this lifestyle and that I've found my calling and that I really love what I do. And, coaching has done that for me. And I think that I just want to share all of this with other people, because how selfish of it is of me to feel this great and not expect or not want other people to feel this way too. So I hope that you guys can understand my story and see where I'm coming from. And I hope it inspires you to maybe start today instead of waiting till tomorrow.